we're live technically
Samir
anyway.
Al Haid.
We're live. How you doing, guys? It's your boy Mitch, and 7 days to. Is it 7 days until the big day?
Go get a bus.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, it's 6 days now until Brexit Day, and an interesting bit of news has come out. But first, my ever able companion and friend, Chicago. How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
The Chadus Maximus is doing all right. I'm fine. I'm doing all right too. And with us is, well, you can't see it, but he has a different name. But you know him as one of the guests from 2-3 weeks ago.
2 weeks.
The stock marketeer extraordinaire,
Oh,
Flossington, also known as Chossis, but now known as Samir El Khaid. explain that name. Like, why the sudden name change?
Well, I had something of an identity crisis.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually Sam Hyde's alter ego.
Oh.
Yes.
Samir Al Haid.
So Samir Al Haid. Yeah.
You know, there's a place called Hyde near where I live.
Nice.
It's like a little small town outside of Manchester. It's never mind.
Do you know what's even nicer than the town or city of Hyde?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that Gwyneth Paltrow has an ad on your channel, Mitch. It's really nice.
What's the I've got
I go to my friendly Mitch channel, and what do I see? I see like a third of the screen taken up by like an extreme close up of Gwyneth Paltrow's face.
Ugh.
It's like I'm like, all right, I can't take this.
So
like,
what's she advertising? Is it some kind of weird, green?
It's
new age
Goop
stuff. Goop. Oh.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw what was his name? Who's like JonTron's Goop video. Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah, well, she's pushing that on your channel.
Oh my god, I'm making money off Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Dude, I'm uncomfortable.
Wait,
what is this?
Hang on, there's a Wired UK article. I just had a little look, and it says what the Goop Lab gets right about and wrong about sex. Like, wait, what? What's this got to do with sex? It's Goop. What?
So it's a lifestyle.
Oh no, I'm worried.
Yeah, you should be worried.
So apparently it's a lab, and it's a lifestyle.
Like I'm like 90% sure that this coronavirus came from the Goop manufacturing plant.
It infected the bats, and then
they
created the coronavirus. Oh my god, is this Resident Evil?
Yes.
Bum, bum.
Yeah.
I think we'll be having zombie dogs, zombie people. Raccoon City will materialize randomly in the middle of bumfuck nowhere in America, and we'll have a full-on zombie outbreak, and then it'll become like survival horror, but then it'll become an action film because we'll all get like magical powers and stuff and start jumping off buildings and things like that.
Like you're not giving, like, I think you're giving this virus too much credit.
I know.
Like it's going to be like ankle biter, like little mice coming out of the woodwork.
Oh my god, it's Dishonored.
and like, I don't know, like big old brute bats just descending, like nipping at you.
It's like Dracula and Dishonored combined, or Castlevania, really, if we're going to go video game.
Like you see like a stampede of like wild deer like running across the forest, and what are they running from? It's like a couple field mice or a bat.
Or is it the guy that shot Bambi's mum?
Yeah. Like he's just like standing around. He's like, what's going on? Like why are they running from a bat? And then all of a sudden, he gets fucking Dracula. Yeah.
It's like usual extreme close-up zoom in. He goes, oh,
oh my god!
Oh my god, they're eating him. They're gonna eat me. Oh my god!
You guys just remind me of a picture that I have in my phone. Looking at the mic for it.
Oh,
I'll have a look.
Oh no.
So anyway, big news in the UK. We don't need a license for memes. So for those of you
Congrats.
For those of you who don't know, basically, the EU enacted a law. Was it 2 years ago? A year ago? I forgot when it even passed now.
2 years?
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah, and it's called Article 13, and there was another article called Article 11, And Article 13 was an attempt to basically regulate the internet and create, if I remember correctly, a really, really strict form of copyright. But you basically, or at least the internet service providers and websites have to basically buy the copyright and the rights to use certain articles and artwork and stuff like that from people, corporations, mainly corporations, and if they don't, they can get punished for that. So if you post an article on Facebook, for example, in the EU, when this law does go into effect proper, you could get Facebook in trouble, or even yourself in trouble. And they tried this in Spain, didn't they? I remember this. There was a test law. It was meant for the media, so they can get, I guess, money from clicks. I don't know exactly why they did it, but it failed utterly. You know, it was you saw tech giants leave the country and things like that, or just be like, nope, we're not touching this. We don't like this. We don't want to pay money for stuff that we shouldn't be paying money for, because it's kind of so strange that you should buy the rights to share an article. That's like getting a newspaper, you know, for free. Because sometimes you get free newspapers like the Metro on in this country on like public transport. That's like getting the Metro, then giving it to a mate. But then of course the Metro might have trade rights and trademark rights and stuff like that. You have to pay the Metro anyway. Like what? And then Article 11 was something else. Oh, and then obviously that affects memes, because a lot of memes are technically trademarked, even though they're transformative by nature. You know, the memes are not the same as the thing that birthed them. But we're not getting that now, interestingly enough. So what do you guys think? Maybe you can explain Article 13 and 11 a bit better than I do, because God, I can't remember.
Article 13 essentially said that ISPs have unlimited liability for abuses of intellectual property. So the photographer who takes a picture, you can't use their property or their intellectual property without giving them credit. And when an ISP gives services to an ISP violator, or like an IP violator, that hammer will come down on the ISP and not necessarily the meme maker, but corporations are being penalized for memes. And so they have an incentive to crack down on any sort of IP violations.
Yeah, and a good example of that would be Plastic Love, the Japanese pop song. That was taken off YouTube, not because the musician or the label were trying to get rid of it because of copyright, because it was blowing up, you know. And now that they have Google Ads and stuff like that, they can just get the video, not take it down, but just make money off of it regardless. You don't need to take it down. It's not a violation of copyright if you're just making money off it yourself. You just place an ad on it, because the person usually doesn't. But in one particular video that blew up, hundreds of millions of people were listening and watching this video. It was a picture of the actual musician, and it was made by this American photographer, and he noticed that and then filed copyright against the guy who uploaded the video with the album cover on it, or single cover, which had her face on it that he took. And for years, or at least for months and a year or two or something like that, it was gone, because he just wouldn't. He was a boomer. He did not understand how any of this worked. But then I think some people managed to get in contact with him, and he realised that, oh wait, I'm actually getting more exposure through this song going viral randomly, and people finding out who did the artwork via whatever means necessary, which means I could get more work. So we, eventually let it go, and now we have the original video back. But that's essentially what would happen under Article 13, but worse, essentially. But we're not getting it now.
Jesus.
Thank God.
Was this part of the Brexit negotiations?
I'm not sure if it was, or the government just decided that's not a law we're going to follow, which is very interesting. But I'm worried that they'll come up with their own, because there's no way that the boomers and the Gen Xers in our government are not going to see the potential of what they can get with that. Because it's a law to control freedom of information and expression.
Whenever there's the next Labour Party government in power, you know that they're going to nationalize the internet, and then you're going to have something even worse than whatever we have now. sort of the status quo. You have David Lammy banning hate speech and hate memes.
That means AA's
Jeez.
channel's gonna go because he's
Yeah.
a meme on there.
No, hate speech on the internet.
The thing is, like, if you're a lot of these people who are like, I don't know what you would call them, left libertarians, not really, but like a lot of the people
Bread tubers.
bread tubers, people like that, they're all for net neutrality, aren't they, and things like that. But if the internet is nationalised, then how is that a neutral net? Considering that the government has a hand in one providing it to you, and also running it, regulating it, it's not going to be very neutral, is it?
Like it would be. I think you're misconstruing exactly what net neutrality is.
Okay, go on.
Just to clarify what net neutrality is, if you could imagine the internet and ISPs providing data through pipes, certain sites like Netflix and YouTube take up a lot of the flow, and they have to the ISPs must treat these sites and their data exactly like any other website under net neutrality. However, these pipes take a lot of money to actually upkeep. So what the ending of net neutrality theoretically did was allowed for IS or internet service providers to charge more for unprofitable or to charge for more unprofitable sites using their pipes. Like essentially, they would theoretically be able to set up fast lanes and slow lanes depending on what kind of content you're making or how much demand you have for flow. It's not necessarily like the concern was that really bad sites would get essentially cut off from the pipe flow, or charge exorbitant amounts of money, or that ISPs would sign contracts with large corporations like Netflix or Google or Facebook that would grant them essentially free reign for fast internet access, like cheaper, faster internet, and then throttle everybody else. So we could not end up with something like a competitor to YouTube or a competitor to Netflix. They'll just fight for ISP supremacy.
Okay.
So it's a lot more indirect than directly censoring the internet China style.
Which I think would happen if the government in this country decided to nationalise the internet. I don't even know how you would nationalise it. I guess what they're really nationalising is ISPs and stuff like that.
Yes.
It's not the internet itself. I don't think that's something that even can be nationalised. Is it physically even possible? Because it's not really a physical thing insofar as, like a factory is or something like that. I guess the servers are, but I'm just wondering. So is this economics while Sperging, says Reason Vision? Sometimes.
Yeah.
This is kind of economics. It's more
Yeah.
it's a bit, but not like, it's not number crunching, we're not going to be Friedmaniting you.
Nah. Like what I'd imagine for the internet, for nationalizing the internet, is all the ISPs would be merged into some mega corporation that would be under the direct control of the UK government.
That just sounds like fascism.
I mean, like
if you think about it,
they're seizing the means of private packet property.
and
I mean, it's not like you own your data anyways.
I know, yeah, we should do though. We should be able to.
I think in the U.S., shoot, I forget what his name was. He was a Kentucky senator or a Kentucky representative who said something along the lines of internet data is property. So in the U.S., we're at least somewhat able to conceive of a free market in terms of the internet.
Fair enough. Also, staying with the Brexit theme though, Donald Tusk released this stupid tweet. Like, it was actually a day ago now. I didn't realize it was a day ago, but it's only just gone, like, been trending a bit. And it's like, we emoji EU flag still love, as in love heart, you Britain. It's like, no, you don't. All the way through this debacle, you've been doing nothing but trying to create a vassal state outside of the EU. You're not really interested in just letting us go. And then, don't forget, this is the same guy who said there's a special place in hell for Brexiteers without a plan, or something like that. So, like, you know, you don't
Like,
love us.
Like, how could, like, Poland, one of the most, like, based European countries out there, like the home of Janusz Mika, produce such a man?
Wait, is he Polish?
Yeah,
Mika?
he's Polish.
Donald Tusk?
Yeah.
Is he?
He's actually one of Poland's most famous politicians
Oh,
right
yeah, he's
now.
from Gdansk. Yeah. Oh, Danzig.
Very unfortunate.
God. Well, yeah. Again, like I've always said, though, it's not as base as people think it is. People like him come out of it, so there you go. But yeah, I just find that to be laughable. But I guess he's trying to change tune. It's like a rhetoric change because it's quietly happening now. You know, they're signing up all the documents and passing the laws. Like, it's been very quiet while other shit has been going down. And it's going to happen. Like, people thought it was going to be this big, massive event. I think it's going to pass by, and before you know it, it's February, and we're out. And then we'll see what happens. But
Well, hey, at least January 31st will be your new Independence Day.
is that an Independence
Freedom from
Day
the EU.
reference? Well, it'll be our first Independence Day in a way, wouldn't it? If you think about it, because we don't have one.
Nah.
But
Like, do you actually have, like, a holiday something
No.
to the equivalent of an Independence Day?
No, we don't know, because we've not been conquered since 1066.
I don't know, like Magna Carta Day.
No, Magna Carta is not something that's that special, unfortunately. I mean, the Bill of Rights is more important, really, in my opinion. But no, we don't really have special days. I mean, we have Saints' days, you know, but not all of them are days where we have the day off. So St. George's Day, I don't think you have a day off for that.
Yeah, for the 2 or 3 like last remaining high Anglicans.
St. Patrick's Day, you don't have a day off, unless it's on Saturday, I guess. Then you can book your day off. I don't know about the other Saints' days. I don't think Andrew and St. David's, stuff like that, I don't think they have days off. It's just not a thing we do. We have our bank holidays and things like that, and that's about it, really, I would say.
Nothing national pride, it seems.
Oh, I mean, we have parades, don't get me wrong, on Saints' days. You know, they're quite patriotic and things like that. But, no, we just don't have the days off. That does mean people don't participate, you know, people buy daffodil and things like that for St. David's Day, and they might, you know, do something for St. George's Day. And we'll go out drinking on St. Patrick's Day, things like that. But, no, I don't know how to explain it.
Like, I'm kind of seeing why, like, this whole integration of the EU thing is sticking so much.
This has always been a thing. That's always, we're just not like that. I would
It's
say.
just not like you don't have much civic pride, I guess.
No, not that.
Or
It's just we
something
don't.
like that.
We express it differently than other countries do. I would say we don't need one special holiday to do it. I would say we don't all need to take time off to enjoy ourselves. I'd say. I don't know how to explain it. Like, to some people, they would think that's not civic pride, but we're just different. We're not. We've always been a bit more meted in it. That doesn't mean we don't, you know, enjoy being who we are and like our country or anything like that. It's just we're a bit more low key, I guess. I get it's hard to explain to people like Americans who are, you know, over the top in it. You know,
we're quasi like jingoistic at times.
Yeah, well,
we're not even quasi-jingoistic at times. It's just flat out jingoistic.
You're a very exaggerated people. Americans seem to exaggerate a lot of things. It's all very big and colourful and flashy. That's just not the British thing. It's just
like
it's not
watching,
how we are.
like watching watching Johnson and Corbyn debate is just you wouldn't get something like that
Yeah,
here.
I don't like that. I don't like the debates. I don't think it works. It's an American importation that just does not work. Like, what's the point in having one for the two main parties and one for the rest of them when they could all be on one big question time panel and just have that it? I don't think it works for our politics anyway, because we're not voting for Boris or Corbyn. We're voting for the party that they represent. We don't. It's not like in America where I know Trump's part of the Republican Party, but it's not really the party you're voting for there. You're voting for the president in many ways. We have a. It's more representational, isn't it? You know, like the MP doesn't just represent the people who voted for him. He represents everybody. But I don't know. I just don't think the debate format works for us. I mean, it doesn't serve any purpose. I don't think it really. I don't think any of them actually helped in any way make people vote a certain way. It's not like in America where I think it probably does have more of an effect. But I don't know. This recent debating style thing, it's just stupid, and the way they were formatting it recently, giving them like barely enough time to make a cogent argument and then have a discussion. It's just like 2 minutes, say this random thing, then I'll give you a soundbite, and then the next person, he gives you a 2-minute soundbite. That's not what a debate is.
That ranks just a little bit better than what we have.
Well, it depends largely how many people are running, right?
Because you'd be in jail. Wrong.
I don't know. I don't like it. We didn't need it. You know, no election ever suffered from not having these debates. No, I mean, we already have like politics shows anyway that have debates. Oh, Makuta Pterodax.
Honestly, I like how U.S. elections used to be done, where just everyone who was run would just have their name on the ballot, and there wouldn't even be primaries.
I would prefer just a speech, like a soapbox speech. You know, like in the old days, people get up on like a big column, and everybody's standing there, and you just shout at people.
You know, that's actually how Truman got reelected in 1948. Because he literally rode around the country with his own private train car. And he just did a whole bunch of whistle-stop speeches everywhere.
Well, that's how you do it, man. I mean,
yeah.
That's what Bannon said in his Oxford speech. You know, yeah, he said, I tip my hat to the Democrats. They did it the old-fashioned way. You know, when they won the House? Or was it the Senate they won? In 2018, was it?
House.
In the midterms? The House, yeah. He said, you know, they went to people's doors, they posted leaflets and talked to people, you know, and that they worked hard. And that's how you do it. That's how you're always going to do it. You know, memes alone don't win an election, unfortunately.
Memes alone don't do shit, actually.
No, I mean, the internet helped, but it was more people doing activism online, and then ultimately it's the people on the ground, as I've always said. Doesn't matter if it's a military...
Trump had absolutely no ground game, though, functionally.
No, he needs to do it better, though. But anyway, Makuta Pterodax has given us a super chat, £5, and he says... The closest thing to an Independence Day could be those who use St. George's Day as a way to celebrate our break with Rome and defeat the Papists. Yes! Defeat the Papists! I love that word, by the way, Papist.
This gave the Catholics the right to vote.
That was in the 18...
So it's like...
Or 17...
Great job, guys.
Yeah. They didn't have the right to bear arms, you know, in this country for a long time. The Bill of Rights 1689 expressly says that it's Protestants.
In like the 60s or like the 1860s or 70s.
Something like that. I mean, I think like that. Round about the time we emancipated the Jews as well in this, I think, actually. Or maybe slightly later. Maybe. I get the dates mixed up. I'm not really into constitutional history, unfortunately. But yeah, because I mean, I see why they did it, even though I disagree. You know, we had a lot of Catholic terrorism going on around about that time with a rival. Not a rival royal family, because we had the daughter of James II as queen and her husband as king, but eventually it became a rival royal house, and they had designs on the throne and to change the way that our country was run, because it wasn't just a religious thing. There was a political angle to this. It was very much. Do we go the way of France and Spain and all those other countries where, you know, their parliaments were basically reduced to not much, not that powerful? the Spanish had the Cortes, which was very similar to our parliament, and then the French have their own. Is it Parlement? I don't know. And they became basically powerless institutions. It was the Sun King, Louis XIV, or Philip, well, whoever was in charge of Spain at the time, that was basically calling the shots. And we had a choice to make. Either we have absolutism or what would become constitutional monarchy, and we went with the more liberal option. And that also meant, in their opinion, I guess as a safety measure, to not give Catholics much rights, and especially the right to bear arms, which I disagree with. I think, especially as the way English and Scottish society panned out anyway, the tensions became basically nothing. Like, it was only really in Northern Ireland where the Protestant versus Catholic thing became a massive issue. And I remember, like, I think a lot of Northern Irish people came over here for the first time. Maybe for uni, or the visiting, or they're moving over to live. They didn't realise just how much of a non-issue it is. Even in the 1800s, 1900s, it was nothing. Even though a lot of our for sports teams and things like that were kind of formed on religious lines. Like, I think my team, I think my team was the Catholic team, if I remember correctly. But it never was a big thing, and they were always shocked by that, which I find interesting.
I think what you were trying to say like a little while back there was something akin to what Leo Strauss called, I think it was like democratic containment or something like that.
I want to say containment. Containment is of the Catholics.
It's more like it's some. Like, I'm blanking on my Leo Strauss, but he said something along the lines of giving rights and privileges as a form of a release valve for the people's anxieties. Give them more of a give them a say, or at least a microphone, so they can voice their grievances.
Basically, the right to bear arms was taken away at some point after during or just before the Civil War. So they were giving it back to the good Protestants of England, basically. That's what it was. There's a video that explains it. So yeah, you're right in the sense it was kind of like that. Debates of the big gay, says Teabag. By the way, Keith Wood's update, he
still no job.
He still hasn't got a job. But I think it was Teabag who posted like a screenshot of one of his tweets. I think this was a meme. I don't think Keith Woods was being entirely serious, but it's like, why is it that politicians always go on about the strong and hardworking types? What about those of us who are lazy, or something like that?
Classic socialist.
Yeah, and I'm just like, get a job, mate. Even though he can't see me.
Those who are lazy, I mean, I guess you'd have to die. Bye.
It's like John Smith's quote, like, you don't work, you don't eat.
Exactly, yeah. I still think he was joking, but I couldn't believe my eyes when I first saw him. Like, is he being serious? Because he said some seriously dumb shit over the past couple of months, like reclaiming socialism from the left. Sorry, even though it's never been a right-wing thing, as far as I'm aware. Kind
of like syndicalism was always kind of a right-wing deviation of socialism.
Maybe it actually comes from. Doesn't it come from anarchism?
Syndicalism is a little bit different.
Doesn't it have like its roots in anarchism or something? Syndicalism.
Well, anarcho-syndicalism is what what's his name, Noam Chomsky sort of advocated for.
I'm pretty sure they had a lot of fascists came from that side of things.
You can always ask my admin Timothy. He's pretty well learned in this stuff.
Yeah, I'm only got a cursory knowledge of that history of ideas. Makuta Pterodax says, I once made myself controversial on the Irish question when I said I supported United Ireland within the United Kingdom. Both sides read. Well, if they want to, they can. I'm not against it.
Reform the Kingdom of Ireland.
I mean, technically, the Northern Ireland is the successor state to that in many ways. Well, it's not a state.
Oh yeah,
but I don't know.
Well, I think the FIFA World Cup, it is considered a state at least.
Yeah, well, our sports teams have always been divided. Apart from the Olympics, that's when, although Scotland didn't give any players. I mean, not that they have many good ones anyway, at least at the time. But yeah, it was only English and Welsh. I mean, was there any not? No, only English and Welsh players went to the Olympics in 2012. But I think that helps us though, keeps us competitive in many ways with each other. So anyway, Chicago, you wanted to talk about Bernie. Bernie Sanders.
Oh yeah, Bernie is. So apparently, Hillary Clinton, in an interview, basically said that absolutely nobody likes Bernie.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, I could both see that, but I also sort of feel kind of bad for him because he's just unable to defend himself.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like my.
He can't defend himself with his record. He was a do nothing independent crazy from Vermont his entire career. Like he made absolutely no friends with the Democratic establishment in the meanwhile, being so high and mighty and purist. So I'll take the take no prisoners, he deserves it route. He's an old man, but good riddance.
Is he actually even growing as a candidate? Like, has he actually been?
He's been consolidating a very, very large portion of the Democratic activist base, but
however, that base is at most like 15% of the vote.
Yeah,
and he does not have the black vote. Like that's been sucked up by Joe Biden.
He wasn't going to get it anyway with the with his weakness with Black Lives Matter. I'd say he looks weak as a leader.
Well, and there's also the fact that if it came between him and Trump, the black vote would actually likely be split pretty evenly because Trump is doing a lot of prison reform.
Oh, I would say black men would be split evenly, but black women will vote Democrat overwhelmingly.
Oh yeah,
it's interesting that it is black men that are slowly shifting. And I know a lot of people in America have been downplaying demographic change in that way, like, oh, we're not getting enough of this X minority vote, when actually you are. In fact, what's changing is Californians moving to other areas in the South and affecting voting
and swinging
patterns.
them blue.
Yeah, I mean, they're leaving the country, the state, sorry, to get away from the crap that they caused, only to create the same conditions elsewhere.
No, teabag. Bernie isn't weak. He lacks heart. No, the fact is his heart is weak. He's got a heart, and it keeps on fucking like.
Oh,
up on him.
That is quite a good joke, especially with his heart problems.
He will never make it for that. I don't think the American public will vote for somebody who's going to die.
You'd be surprised.
I mean, I guess FDR, but nobody expected him to get a heart attack.
No, it's more like Reagan had started getting Alzheimer's or something like that.
But that's something that's
Reagan actually started to be affected by Alzheimer's during his re-election campaign.
Yeah.
So no, they still voted for him. But that's also because his opponent was just awful.
But then again,
he also had like some epic comeback in the debate. I forget what it was.
Well, you got to remember that it's a bit more subtle. Alzheimer's as well. I mean, if you know the signs, you can see it a mile away. But for most people, they probably just thought it was, maybe a bit tired or just, stuttering over his words or just he's just a bit old. That's just forgetful. I don't think they realized.
Was that comeback when Mondale compared himself to Thomas Jefferson? So then he shot back that he knew Thomas Jefferson and that Mondale was not at all like Thomas Jefferson.
Something like that.
I know.
I love Reagan's jokes.
I knew Thomas Jefferson, and you're not like Thomas Jefferson.
I knew Thomas Jefferson.
He had a really weird, silky, snake-like voice, didn't he?
Like he kind of had like a John Wayne sort of.
Well, that's what he was during Hollywood, like a discount John Wayne.
Yeah, movies with monkeys.
I think politics was best for him, chimps. Really. I'm not gonna lie. Oh yeah, monkeys and chimps. Yeah. That's why there's a monkey in Spitting Image. Have you seen the Spitting Image mockery of him?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, he's like an absolute retard, and they have a pet monkey, him and Nancy. And I didn't realize that was a film reference to his old Hollywood career. And the dog, I think, is the one who does all the policies and stuff, I think, if I remember correctly. But they don't realise that the dog is really smart. Spitting Image.
God.
It's coming back as well, Spitting Image, did you know?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of Spitting Image things on YouTube.
I'm worried about it, though. I don't think it'll be as good as the old one. I think they'll be more partisan than they used to be.
Yeah.
Who knows? Remains to be seen. But I think Bernie, though... it doesn't matter if he gets endorsements from Joe Rogan, who has millions of fans. I think most of his fans are not particularly Bernie supporters anyway.
Most of Bernie's fans hate Joe Rogan.
Yeah, they do, because as I mentioned before, he was quote tweeted by this activist who's like an Elizabeth Warren fan, because he basically said, I find it romantic. I'm paraphrasing. I find it romantic when gay men can kiss in public and not feel ashamed about it. And she's like, oh, how dare you? You do realise, right, that in this party, we don't fetishise the LGBTQ, even though he's straight.
She probably made like that Greta Thunberg face too.
How dare you?
How dare you?
How dare you? How's that become a meme?
It's great.
Oh dear.
And then you've also had had Warren's campaign absolutely collapse.
Yeah, but she's still trying to go on. She's still hoping that she gets a boost or something. Mate, when Joe Biden, who's literally dying in front of us, is getting more votes than you need to back it in. Like,
Biden is an absolute train wreck.
He actually is.
Like, if it's probably worse than Reagan's Alzheimer's, and he's not even into his first term.
Mate,
yeah.
Biden's like, his eyes are bleeding. His joints are going. I don't know.
Well, I mean, the eyes bleeding.
Have a heart attack.
The eyes bleeding thing isn't really something that I'm all that concerned with, because my dad sometimes has that happen all the time. But he's also very healthy, and it actually doesn't affect much at all. It just makes him look weird.
Makuta Pterodax is saying some interesting stuff here. Back in 2016, I was a neocon. How dare you?
My condolences.
Initially wanted Sanders to win. Interesting. I switched to wanting Trump to win when Hillary screwed him over. A few months after Trump's inauguration, I became a right-wing libertarian. I became a libertarian in 1917, around the time I started watching Sargon v. AAICC. I'm
sorry, did you just say
the great radicalizer?
The British radicalised Makuta Pterodax.
Yeah.
See, I'm from the class of 2013-14, so I'm already way above like most people when it comes to being red-pilled. And Teabag, Joe, I'm gonna say the N-word, Rogan. Has he ever done that?
Probably. Like, if anyone has...
Jamie, pull that shit up. I'm gonna say the N-word.
I'm gonna have a gamer moment.
I think what Makuta is trying to tell us is that Britisher is the one who's pushing the Overton window.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Well, I mean, he is the centrist, so he literally just does whatever the Overton window says he should do.
I'm very comfortable in my picket fence. Is he really that much of a centrist, though? I don't think he is. The British Knight thinks he isn't, and I don't think he is. I don't know. I think AA just plays it up for laughs, I think.
I think Britisher is so autistic he can't break out of like a pure consequentialist sort of mindset.
Maybe. I don't know. I think he's more reasonable and sensible than most of the a lot of people on unpopular opinions.
I don't know about that.
I think there's a reason why he's on every single episode when he can.
He's containment.
I don't think he's containment.
I think he's just a chill dude.
He's chill. Definitely chill, yeah. He's a boomer, though, but he's chill.
Yeah.
A 30-second clip of Joe Rogan saying the forbidden word.
The gamer word.
The gamer word. The PewDiePie word. But yeah, I feel sorry for Joe because he's just... I mean, I'm not sorry for him making the wrong decision because I don't understand that you can talk to all these people on your podcast and then come to the conclusion that Bernie's the right one for you when there have been people who have decimated his worldview right in front of your eyes. like completely, utterly took it apart in like 30 minutes or less, and he still thinks, yeah, Bernie, yeah. Like, why? Why would somebody like him vote Bernie? I just don't understand. I don't understand it. Like, can anybody give me a rational reason why you would want to vote for Bernie? I don't know. Why? Or maybe
you need the money.
But you won't have any money with Bernie.
That doesn't mean that they understand that.
I do know that a lot of Democrat voters are angry that he wouldn't have a lot of the other candidates on, so, because he's had Yang, who I think's everybody knows I don't like him. He's had Yang on, he's had Mommy and Tulsi, he's had Mommy on, he's had, who else did he have on?
Yang.
I said Yang. Yang, Tulsi, Sanders, and Buttigieg?
No,
he didn't. But no, it was Rick Rubin who had him on, right? Or will have him on at some point, right? But there's somebody we can go into. But yeah, he's not had Elizabeth Warren on. He's not had
he said he would not have Biden, Warren, or Buttigieg on.
What about Bloomberg and all the others?
Like, Bloomberg, he has essentially dumped $200 million in ads and bought himself like an 8% approval rating, or 8% slice of the vote.
The way I see it is he should have them on. They're asking him. He can destroy them in a debate and ruin their chances. It's not hard. And they want to go on.
Especially with Warren, who freezes up like like a deer,
like a deer in headlights.
She's seeing the headlights, yeah.
It's got to be like a ballsy move.
Yeah.
Like her manager's just putting their candidates out like that.
I mean,
like like Warren would crumble in a Joe Rogan like scenario.
Oh, she would. She definitely would, in front of hundreds of thousands of people. Whoever's watching it.
What's your opinion on DMT?
Yeah, so Elizabeth, like, have you ever took DMT? Huh? Yeah, I took DMT once. Blew my mind. You really take some time. Oh, I. That's what she'd do. She'd be like, how do I say this without appearing unfamily friendly on this weed smokers podcast? God, imagine she walks in there and her eyes start burning because he smokes weed all the time. Like, whoosh,
oh God,
both of Biden's eyes just start bleeding right away.
It'll turn into laser eyes. It'll be bleeding that much. Psst, psst.
Or they could just have like a panel. It's Rogan on one side of the desk, and then Biden, Warren, and Buttigieg on the other. And like essentially Rogan asks, what do you think of DMT? And then
I think
Biden's eyes just start bleeding. Warren starts like pulling out her hair, and Buttigieg starts like sniffing glue or something.
I think Biden,
it's a great scene. Great scene.
I think Biden, because he's a boomer, he might have taken it or something similar when he was younger, and he'd probably talk to Joe Rogan about it, I reckon.
Like,
he'd be like, oh, well, I didn't take DMT back in the day, but I did take some LSD. Because he's a boomer. I assume he must have took it at some point.
He also, like, do you know the story of him and Corn Pop?
No, I do not. What is this?
Oh, okay. So once upon a time, Joe Biden was a lifeguard at a predominantly like a rough, like predominantly black swimming pool.
Uh-oh.
And he was sitting on his little lifeguard stand, and this dude named Corn Pop wouldn't get out of the pool. And so Joe Biden was like, hey, get out of the pool. And Corn Pop was like, yeah, see me outside after work. We're gonna tussle. And so like Biden, he's like, all right, I'll beat the shit out of you. And so like a little while later, Biden goes and like gets himself like goes to like the janitor, grabs like a chain, and they they didn't tussle. Like Biden just went outside. Corn Pop is and his like little posse were like flexing, and Biden just says like, "You get out of here. I don't want to see you here no more." And Corn Pop was like, "I." They just left. Like, that's the story of Corn Pop.
I'm a head out.
Yeah,
I'm
pretty
a
much.
head out. Biden's too much for me. That chain is terrifying. Shit.
Right idea.
What a strange
DMT
story.
question. Biden, eyes bleed, Warren, tribal dances, Buttigieg, posts grinder image in front of him.
Don't mind if I
My
just
God.
respond to this
Outside the
person.
Holocaust Memorial site. Yes.
Mikita Pterodax says, I'm probably more Native American than Warren, and it's been the best part of 300 years since any of my forekind lived in the New World. In my opinion, the Britisher is a centrist liberal who appears to some people conservative because he hasn't undergone the cultural reprogramming of the Blair years. So what he's saying is, he's basically Lloyd George. Teabag says, well, 90% of the top 1% own 50% of the 650. Oh, I see where this is going. Then he says, Rogan asks DMT question, Biden, eyes bleed. Oh yeah, I just read that, yeah. Oh god. Like, Rubin, right? He's an interesting fellow. Did anybody watch Mouthy Buddy's video on him?
I have not.
It's a video defending him, actually. Like, I think, like, answering the question, why do people hate him? And it seems to boil down to he's made a few life choices that people don't like, and I think he's a bit weak in his discussions, I think, and that makes him come across as a little bit not self-serving. What's the other word? He likes to please the people that he's talking to. So like when Tommy Sotomayor is going off about gay people and he's gay, and he's being homophobic, and Rubin's just sitting there, not even trying to at least provide some kind of conflicting opinion, trying to challenge what he's saying. He comes across as weak and pandering, I guess. So a lot of the left-wingers don't like him for that, and I guess a lot of the right-wingers don't like him because he's not hard enough on a lot of his stances, or he's a bit cringy in what he says. And also, I know a lot of the new atheists don't like him because he's decided that he's religious now, so he's become a religious Jew again, I think, or just decided, what, spirituality is for me. But none of these things are really things that you can say, oh, this is why he's a horrible person. And I think a lot of people are trying to say is that it's entirely put on, that he's just lying, that he's just doing this for the money to pander to specific groups. When really I don't think so. I think in the video, Mouthy Buddy says that he's a guy who doesn't like conflict because he's so liberal, I guess. No, he's not a libertarian. A lot of people say, oh, he's pretending to be libertarian. Like, he's never said he is. He just says he has a few things that he shares with them, but other than that, he's not. So he's the kind of person who he won't press anybody's buttons. He'll just let them say what they have to say, and then try and get through it. Because in a lot of the debates he's hosted, the Blair White one, for example, was it Candace Owens? That was a textbook. Him trying to not have any conflict in there, having the bloody cat fight with each other, and he's like, guys. That's not him pandering he's weak, but that's because he doesn't want conflict. And that's why he comes across as fake, and I think why a lot of people hate him. But I don't think it's justified, personally. It's like, and Joe Rogan's getting a bit of that now because of his endorsement of Sanders. But like, Yang really liked Rubin. Like, I didn't watch the Yang thing, but he said, you know what? Since talking to you, I realised actually that you're nothing like what people said you were. I would definitely encourage other people to come on and talk to you on the left. And lo and behold, I think he has had more people on. And that's another thing, isn't it? He's criticised for not talking to enough people on the other side, but he has had videos with them. He's had Tulsi Yang, Redneck Liberal, is he called? If you've heard of him, the Redneck Liberal. He's had others. I mean, the problem is, a lot of leftists will never talk to him because, one, they hate him because they see him as a traitor, and two, they don't particularly like going on those types of shows. Even though he doesn't, he doesn't challenge you in any meaningful way, he just gets you to basically spout your platform for about 2 hours, and then he breaks it up into little videos to make more money. I mean, that's literally all he does. How can you fail at that? Which makes you wonder, really, how strong their
he's
politics
just
actually
too
are.
agreeable.
He
I
is
guess.
too agreeable, yeah. And,
like to the point where he has a couple very basic, I guess, sort of like very basic ideals, I guess. And everybody who vaguely can fit into his conceptualization of the world, he gives a free pass to. So he'll bring on Stefan Molyneux, and like he'll get a bunch of shit for
you better have
for
kids
talking
before
to a
you
race
turn 30.
realist. But then you also have like him talking to like Yang, who is something like an absolute abomination to anyone who's purely libertarian.
Don't say that
however,
to Alcazar.
However, he'll I guess rephrase all of Yang's positions into this vaguely classical liberal with like squiggly letters, like kind of framework, and repackage everybody else as whatever he likes. Like he's a lazy propagandist. That's what it is.
What, Rubin's a propagandist?
Lazy propagandist.
I don't
He has
know.
a couple vaguely a couple vague ideals, and then he tries to repackage everybody else to fit into his ideals.
I don't know. I don't think he's trying to propagandize. I mean, why would you propagandize people like Molyneux and Yang and all that? What's he propagandizing for then? I mean, everything's so vague and
Freedom.
Freedom. But Yang and Molyneux are not people I would want to propagandize for freedom. He must know that, right? But I just think he's just too agreeable. I think it's his personality there's personality flaws in there that kind of prevents him from becoming the interviewer that he could become. Because I think Metalworks makes a good point in the chat where he says that, he used to work with Larry David, apparently, and he wants to be like him, but Larry David isn't somebody who is necessarily agreeable. He's obviously,
his whole shtick is he's the asshole. He's a disagreeable guy.
But he's
always gets what's coming to him.
Larry David.
I'm going through like the Curb Your Enthusiasm sort of persona.
Yeah. I don't think he means Curb Your Enthusiasm. I think he means the interviewer. He was on Ghostbusters. What was he called again? Because I don't know. I don't think Dave Rubin worked in comedy.
Yeah, he did.
Did he?
Yeah.
And Larry David does interviews.
Larry David.
Final.
Strange.
Are you talking about the same guy?
No, he means the interviewer. Hang on a sec. Morrissey was interviewed by him. It is Larry King. That's what he means. He means Larry King, not Larry David.
It's like, so what are you thinking about?
It was the subscriber in the chat. I think he got confused between two different Larrys.
Yeah.
Two old Jewish Larrys.
In real life, I've actually hung out with Dave Rubin once.
Mm-hmm.
He apparently wanted to get into sports broadcasting. Like he's a big Lakers guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then he tried to crack it into comedy until he came into the Young Turks. And he kind of applied the same sort of like amateur comedian, amateur sports broadcaster sort of persona into the Young Turks.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess he didn't take a red pill. He took like half of a pill and then spun it off into the Rubin Report, this quasi libertarian,
I wouldn't call
vaguely
it quasi-libertarian at all.
Rightish.
I mean, he's very much middle of the road, milquetoast content. That's how I see it. I don't think there's a libertarian bent in the show. Maybe he has a slight libertarian bone in his body, but as he said before, but I don't think he's full on like that. I think he's more like Jordan Peterson in many ways. That's why he was on the tour with him and things like that. But funnily enough, Jordan Peterson was quoted in the video I was on about in terms of, agreeable people, they don't want conflict. God, I love that. I love Kermit. It's alright, Metalworks. We all get things wrong. Even I get things wrong. Believe it or not. So anything else you guys want to discuss? Anything else that's been going on in the world? Should we go on about the coronavirus?
Yes.
So Wuhan's been Wuharing, I guess. There's been violence in the streets. There's been a lot of police activity. They've shut down the entire province. So do you guys want to get into it? I've laid down some of the groundwork.
Well, the virus has recently hit Europe, so
hit France. It's alright, guys. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. It hit the expendable part of Europe.
Yeah, although they've been having massive, even bigger protests recently, by the way. The Yellow Jackets have not let up. In fact, things are getting even bigger, and there's been a complete press blackout on that.
Jeez.
Yeah, Macron's becoming more and more megalomaniacal. Like, he really does think he's the bee's knees. But yeah,
Macron's literally becoming Louis Philippe in the 1830s.
He you know what? He compares himself, apparently. This is what I saw on Twitter. So take
to Louis Philippe?
No.
My God.
Not that one, no. I mean, depends which Louis Philippe.
Anyway. To Louis the 14th?
Yeah, the Sun King.
There's only one Louis Philippe, and it's the one in the 1830s.
So there's two.
No, there's only one. He's the last king of France.
They should come back. I think they need them. But yeah, take it with a grain of salt. But he compares himself to the Sun King. I don't think he's gone full Napoleon yet, but he does compare himself favourably to a lot of famous French leaders, as if he's anywhere near as good as them. When he's got tens of thousands of people in the streets calling for him to resign, and then now we've got the coronavirus, and that's causing civil strife in China. I don't think that's going to affect the rest of the country, though. The civil strife. No. We're not going to see the end of Winnie the Pooh anytime soon.
Leader for life, Winnie the Pooh.
Well, leader until he gets purged, I guess. Like, didn't he? When he.
Well, it is leader for life because when he gets purged, he gets killed.
True. It's like, what happened? Didn't he? When he became leader, didn't he then purge the old guard? Didn't he?
Kind of.
Yeah, he did.
And I know.
Well, he took them out of their positions.
But he didn't kill. Well, as far as we know, he didn't kill them.
Officially, he hasn't killed them.
But we know that probably some of them are currently asleep somewhere.
Yeah.
Apparently,
so we're
Jim,
6 feet under.
Apparently, Jim is really worried about the kung flu.
About the what?
The kung
flu.
The kung flu. I'm not
Everybody
I'm not too worried
was
about
kung
it.
flu sneezing.
See, I'm not too worried about it. Like, in all the other places outside of China, it's not even reached 10 people. I think all the other countries are doing a really good job in containing it, and I think it'll be isolated cases outside of China for the most part. I think, like in Europe, in America, and Singapore, places like that, Australia, they'll be fine.
Yeah,
because they've got.
There's like 5 people in Seattle and 2 people in Chicago who are infected by it in the U.S.
I don't think it's going to be a worldwide pandemic like AIDS is or was. AIDS is becoming less of an issue now, to be fair.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've even found a cure for AIDS. The issue is it's expensive.
Makuta Pterodax says, a good purpose for monarchy in the 21st century is to prevent elected politicians seeking or obtaining unearned or unwarranted glory and majesty. Also depoliticizes the head of state, which is true to some extent. But then you just get monarchs like the Queen who doesn't do that at all. That's
because if she does anything political, she'll be stripped of
it's not even a political
what little
thing.
She has left.
That's making sure people are humble is not a political act. I think that's what Makuta Pterodax is trying to say. But trying to make sure that people, don't get too big in their station and talk to the other side, which is what a lot of her other previous monarchs did. That's not against the rules. But facilitating conversation, which is what the king or queen can do. They are also an
beating up on my democracy, the god that failed. If I'm getting a little bit too black pilled on democracy.
I'm black pilled on monarchy anyway, but
Well, what's wrong with monarchy?
It's literally a throw of the dice, and you never know what you're gonna get. And it's never
It's
and you can't so easily replace a king or a queen compared to a democratically elected government. Sorry, I don't know, I got distracted then. What are you gonna say?
oh, I mean, Hoppa brings up this point where hypothetically, what if you had a monarch who was a child king, but democratically you have all child kings, and all of the child kings have advisors breathing down their necks. So instead of having like one roll of the dice, you have many, many rolls of dice and many, many more opportunities to get politicized and to spread influence all over the place. And also, there's no real responsibility in any one ruler. You just pass blame down the line.
Is democracy really a throw of the dice in the sense you know what you get in with the parties that you can vote for necessarily? Whereas with
Unfortunately,
monarchy, you don't know who's going to be born, you don't know what that person's going to be when they grow up. Like,
it's even worse than a roll of the dice. You know that the politicians will act with extremely high time preferences, raid the here and now, and then pass debt down onto the future government.
Which is what the kings do as well when they're absolute kings.
No,
Yes,
no.
Of course, were you telling me that France didn't inherit a lot of issues that Louis XIV created?
Of course not. But the kings will raid their future family or their future family's wealth from himself if he taxes his populace.
Which I don't think happened in the run-up to the French Revolution, if memory serves. And I don't think that happened in the Ottoman Empire either. I mean, in fact, in the Ottoman Empire, when they when future
My internet's cutting out.
Who's cutting out? Me?
No, Chaucer's internet is turned it out.
Ooh. Yeah, I can still hear you. Or is it the signal? Oh, I think we lost him.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
we can hear you now.
I could hear you when you were saying you had issues. You still there?
I'm still here.
All right, just every time you go quiet, I'm worried that you've cut out or something.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with my internet.
I don't know.
Starts doing an interview with people on different sides of the screen that newscasts do.
Yeah.
So anyway, do you want an update, guys, on the artwork that I want to get done?
Yeah, sure.
Now that I've been paid, I'm gonna go talk to Skalk if he's been watching this. I don't know. But I know the idea that I want in my head. I'm gonna describe it to him properly again, and
You want
don't forget
a really defined chin.
Oh well, I already have one anyway. But Chicago and Alcazar will need to send him, obviously, how they want to be drawn, and make sure everything is plain and he can understand what you need. Because if it's too vague, you won't have anything to go by, and things like that. And other than that, yeah, I'm gonna go talk to him once I've paid all my bills and like shit that I need to do. French Revolution had nothing to do with the Sun King. Let's see how he laid the groundwork for it, though.
He let go of his sense of noblesse oblige.
Yeah,
and that's the
erosion
pitfall.
and the erosion of a lot of the institutions, like the Parliament and things like that.
French revolutionaries were 20 or 200,000 times worse than the Sun King.
Obviously, but his mistakes arguably led to them being created.
Yeah.
You also got to remember.
However,
got to remember his endless wars didn't contribute, and then they had further wars after that.
Well,
as well,
the wars before democracies were small and very concentrated.
It's not about the war itself. It's
I
more
wouldn't.
Post
I wouldn't say that Louis XIV's wars were small.
No, they weren't. They were continental.
Concentrated.
In
fact, one of them could be described as a world war.
It was. I mean, I think there was fighting in the Caribbean, in North America.
There's fighting in India.
I think India was more of a battleground later on. So, like, I think it more been the 1740s and stuff like that. But yeah, the first proper world war, you can argue, was the Sun King versus Britain and whoever in which war was that? Would that be the Spanish Succession? I think. Yeah, that was a world war basically in many ways.
Yep.
Post-democratic wars are inevitably holy wars of the same kind of the wars that came out of the Reformation. Instead of having kingly wars, you have wars of people against people, nation against nation, nation state against nation state. The advent of total war was with Napoleon and conscripts.
Napoleon wasn't a democracy though, and neither was say countries like Prussia and at least not in the true sense they weren't Prussia. I mean, they had the Reichstag, but they weren't in practice. They weren't a democracy. Austria-Hungary wasn't. Germany during Hitler's time they weren't a democracy, or even slightly before him with he was the guy, the general. Forgot. They basically started being a functioning democracy just before the election in 1930 or something like that. I can't remember. So the idea that post when democracies became more of a thing, that war changed as a result of that. I don't know. Considering a lot of the enemies fighting each other weren't necessarily democracies, I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Holy wars in a sense, yeah, but I think that was becoming a thing anyway because nationalism came out of the French Revolution, and even they didn't have they were all sorts of people. You had people, Democrats, people who weren't, and nationalism isn't really beholden to either absolute monarchy or
there's also the fact that you're comparing the world before the Treaty of Westphalia to after the Treaty of Westphalia,
yeah.
and that is two very, very different worlds.
And it had a lot of
before the Treaty of Westphalia, the modern nation states didn't exist. Period.
Germany was only
France was just a whole bunch of feudal lords.
Alessio, Germany was only more democratic in theory, but not in practice. Yes, they had more people who could vote, but they couldn't vote to change laws and stuff like that. They could, they're voting in people who had very little say. The people who actually made the laws and did all the stuff,
But also the first time Germany was ever considered a legitimate democracy was
Weimar,
after the 1950s. No, not the Weimar Republic.
Really?
That was an anocracy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a combination of authoritarianism and
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Democracy.
I'm not even saying that we should bring democracy to the world. Whatever's best for the country, really, innit? But
we should at least bring open anocracy to the world.
I'm definitely not a universalist, but no, they weren't a democracy at all. They again, the people who made the actual decisions and made laws, although they were slightly beholden to the Reichstag in some sense, they could always maneuver and get their own way. The Chancellor wasn't elected by the people; he was elected by Wilhelm and a lot of the other key players. And then later on, it became a military dictatorship with Ludendorff.
Hindenburg, the upper house was basically appointed by the king.
Even though Britain was not, it didn't have full franchise rights, which I've always said on my channel. People go on.
Britain only really became a democracy when Labour first got into power.
No, it was it wasn't Labour. It was still the Liberals at that time. In 1919, I think it was. Yeah,
I think it was a little bit before that.
No, it was 1920 where...
Yeah, 1920, yeah.
Well, where everyone was able to actually vote.
Yeah, it was...
And that was when Labour got a huge increase.
No, it was still the Liberals, I think. I'm pretty sure. But in power, that is. But in 1928...
I thought that Ramsay MacDonald won in 1920.
He won in... Let me have a look. Ramsay MacDonald...
The first Labour PM.
Yeah, he was, yeah. Let's have a look. What was... In office... 1929 and 1924. So, when the franchise was fully extended, it was actually, I think, still Lloyd George? No, Stanley Baldwin, it might have been. No, wait.
Okay.
Let's have a look. I'm just going to go click through this. See... Oh, Bonar Law did become Prime Minister, did he? Oh no, it was Lloyd George. It was Lloyd George. 1922 he got kicked out.
Ah, I see.
Yeah. So it was Lloyd George, the devil. But yeah, but again, in practice, we actually worked more as a democracy than Germany did, because at the very least, that limited franchise did have a say in who made the laws and stuff like that, and the
Yeah.
MPs were beholden to them more then. I'd say more back then than they are now. I'd say, in many ways.
Well, that's because they actually had to go and directly speak to their electorate back then.
And Pterodax says,
Right now, they just need at least 40%.
indeed. The demise of the Catholic Church, says Mercute Pterodax, their influence during the 16th century enabled the civic governments to extend their power at the expense of the spiritual government. Machiavelli makes it clear that the French nation was just the area, around Paris. You had the Norman nation. Yeah, that's the thing that a lot of people forget. France wasn't really France until very recently. Even during World War One, that was probably still the case. Even then, I would say only after that did France become France.
Oh, yeah.
I would say.
I mean, even as far as 1850, there were only two legitimate democracies, and it was the United States and Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
There were no other
In
democracies.
terms of was that franchise, right?
In terms of, yeah,
Well, Alessio,
basically,
they were far more accountable than the Germans.
yeah.
That is something you cannot deny. The Liberals were the tools of the Fabians. Well, no, that's the Labour Party that was really the tools. I mean, I know that the Liberals, especially under Lloyd George, were... well, there was two different factions you've got to remember. There was, or maybe even three. There's the Imperialists, there were the Social Liberals, like... well, no, actually, no, that's not right. There was the Social Liberals, and then there was the more classical Liberals, and Lloyd George's faction went
And
out.
then the weird national liberals under Asquith.
Yeah. Well, Asquith was the combination of all of them. He was the one who glued the party together from breaking up, basically. And
Yeah.
I think it was that breakup which basically ended any hope of them ever becoming a election force again. Like the only time they entered government was in the coalition government a few years ago. So maybe some of the Liberals I can concede may have been, but most I think a lot of them weren't. And obviously you got the Tory party, which were I don't even know what they would have been considered back then. But yeah, it's not. They're still far more accountable to the people who couldn't vote. They were more accountable to than Germans. And the German, it's basically I probably shouldn't make this comparison, but the German Prussian really system of democracy, quote unquote. How they did their elections and stuff. It's kind of like the EU now, if you think about it. So you've got MEPs who are elected by the people, but then you've got the upper echelons above that are not voted for by the people, and they're the ones who make all the legislature and stuff like that. And they're appointed by higher ups, kind of like what Wilhelm did. It's not perfect, I know. I shouldn't really compare it, but I can't help but feel that that's what it is in a way. I think you probably disagree, Trossis, don't you? I don't know.
What was that?
Oh, that the Prussian system, during Wilhelmine Germany is basically similar to the EU, how things are voted on and things like that. Representation and stuff like that. You got
the arc of history is long, but it bends towards Germany.
It does. There's only one thing we can do: divide Germany.
Yeah.
I think we haven't actually dunked on Germany for a while, so we need to bring that in there.
Yeah.
Figures that the one day we're actually fine with dumping on Germany is the day that Altazai isn't here to do it.
Yeah, Makuta, that's very true. I think have you been watching Monarchy recently? Because I know I was. Is that the same? Is it Monarchy or is it England or Britain, whatever it is that David Starkey did? Because he made that point. England was pretty much the first nation state in many ways because of the Anglo-Saxons when they first united the country. It was very much a nation state in like a latent form. It's not a Westphalia kind of nation state that we have. But yeah, he's right, Makuta Pterodax, totally right. Yeah, we were the only ones. So like Edward III in Scotland, and then you got Anglo-Saxon England. just added me something. I'll check it after the stream because unfortunately, guys, some good debate with the chat as usual.
The,
And, oh, do you want to say something?
Yeah. On Makuta Pterodax's point about the demise of the Catholic Church in the 16th century, enabling civic governments to extend their power at the expense of spiritual government, it went a lot farther back than the 15th or the 16th century. It went all the way back to the Black Death and the peasants' revolts.
Oh, it even goes further back than that if you want to go, or maybe not.
It was like the very start of like the Reformation and the cracks in the Catholic Church.
Because you think
and
about
the rise of secular governments.
You think about it, you know the what was that crusade in France? Help me, guys, help me. The Cathars, that's it. They were the first break in the armour, like the first chip against the system that the Catholic Church had created. Even though they were mostly harmless, and they weren't interested in taking power or anything like that. They just wanted to live in poverty. The fact that they,
nice.
That's what it was. It was really, really, extreme form of what I guess you can argue Christianity ought to be. I think because they was more purist than the Catholic Church, this is a bit of self-awareness almost of like, oh, we can't have this because we need our simony and things like that. We need our tithes. Whereas these people are living more like Jesus did. He didn't have tithes. I mean, I guess people gave him money, but it was more like a Patreon system in a way, wasn't it? If you think about it.
Yeah.
It's not like that at all. They don't even have furniture, I think, actually, the Cathars. They didn't even have... That's how, into it they were. So they got rid of them because
they
they
didn't quite go full, like, Diogenes, but they got close.
And that was a threat just because of the type of Christianity it was. Even though they probably had no desire to take over. Maybe they did. Maybe some people thought we could totally change the church. But it was the
some
first
people
chip.
did something.
Then, I mean, it explains why they're so brutally put down. Because it's more the idea than it is the people and their actions. And then you've got the Black Death, and I think there were other things as well that were going on. So like there was changes in the monasteries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then there was in Czechoslovakia. Well, just John Hus. That's in
Jan
Kingdom
Hus.
Deliverance and things like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
They were
proto-Protestants.
Yeah. But technically, you can argue in England we had something similar. I mean, Alfred the Great translated the Bible into English. So we already had English Bibles by then. I think the printing press was the big thing, though. Because when people started, breaking the law and translating it into the vernacular, and then it spread like wildfire, people realised, hang on a sec, the Catholic Church isn't even canon. Essentially, a lot of the stuff they believe in, it's not in the Bible.
Wouldn't Alfred the Great's Bible also be in German?
No, more Old
It's
English.
like Northern German.
No, Old English it would be.
Old English was kind of
It's
Germanic.
Germanic, but it's not the same as German. I mean,
I can just imagine like Martin Luther squinting over Alfred the Great's
he would not be able to
homework.
understand it. He wouldn't
Like,
be
just-
able to. I can't understand it.
Leave me to my fantasies, man.
You know what's weird about Middle English though?
Yeah.
You can read it, but you can't speak it. Like if somebody spoke Middle English to you, you would not understand the word they're saying, even though if you had the subtitles, you'd be like, I know what you're saying, just about.
Yeah.
It's the pronunciation.
The vernacular is the same.
Mm-hmm. Only in Shakespeare did it become basically how we speak now. Sorry, we're getting way off now, aren't we? But
Yeah.
anyway, closing remarks. Chicago.
Well, whenever that the coronavirus, I drink Modelo.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Wait, was that a beer joke?
Yes,
Yeah, I thought
it was
it
a
was.
beer joke.
It's a really, really shitty beer joke.
just like how good that beer is quality-wise anyway.
Shittier than Bud
Damn!
Light.
Is that a Mexican beer? Corona is Mexican, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
Both of them are.
yeah. Cervezas.
So what about you, Chossis? Samir Al-Haid? Any
Samir. It's Haid.
Haid.
Samir Al Haid. Yeah. I don't know, guys. Democracy is the god that did fail. We're just waiting for that monarchy gang to rise back up.
Monarchy Gang will never rise up. They've had their day.
No, just wait for our neo-cameralism.
And my words are drink lots of water and go to bed early, guys. Now get out.
Oh.